more about that. Now let's bring in our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. Doug, the campaigning leading up to the vote in Spain's capital was marked by violence. There were death threats. It's also raised the prospect of perhaps having a far-right party entering Madrid's governing coalition. Tell us a bit more about all of that.
Well, you mentioned at the top of the show that the elections have taken a dark turn. It's the campaign that has taken a dark turn. All politics, they say, is local. Yet anyone who is familiar with what has been happening on the U.S. political scene or in recent U.K. elections, even Italy, will recognize in these regional elections to choose new politicians in the regional legislature centered on the capital region, Madrid. Anyone will see that there's the same very sharp divisive rhetoric. There's that stark polarization, the divisiveness. There's the populism on both sides, both the far left and the far right. And you've had a lot of violence, both rhetorical violence and violence at some rallies. It was recently in April, there was violence at a far right rally after anti-fascist leftist people showed up and they had clashes. Look, you mentioned that the candidate here, the front runner, she is the incumbent conservative president. She herself dissolved the regional parliament. These are the first early elections a region in Spain is held really in modern times. And she is run on a slogan, communism or freedom. And on the left, the slogans have been, the rallying cries have been democracy or fascism. So you see right there in a slogan, in a nutshell, just how divisive that rhetoric has been. And the two sides, never the twain shall meet, as they say. There have been allusions in this campaign, to the civil war of the 1930s in Spain and the period during which Franco basically ruled as a dictator over Spain. Dark hints of return to that past. And look, the incumbent right now, she's a right-wing candidate. She needs 69 votes to be able to govern alone in the region's 136-seat assembly. If she doesn't get that, you're absolutely right that there could be a far-right party, Vox, brought into a junior governing coalition, and that would be perhaps a harbinger of things to come, not just within Spain, which Spain, let's remember, is still ruled by a socialist prime minister. It has a socialist government coalition on the national level, but it could be a harbinger of things to come elsewhere in Europe, including, Jeannie, right here in France in next year's presidential election, which is already seen as almost a foregone conclusion of a race between Emmanuel Macron and a far-right challenger, Marine Le Pen.
Let's focus on the French election later, Doug, when we get to it as it gets closer to the date. Let's stay now for the moment on what's happening in Spain. Just tell us a bit more about where this might leave these left-leaning parties. I mean, as we were saying, Spain does have a socialist prime minister.
Absolutely. Well, look, in order to perhaps dilute the threat from this far-right party, Vox, that I mentioned earlier, you've had Spain's deputy prime minister on the national level basically quit his post in March. Why did he do that? He wanted to basically enter this local regional Madrid race because, let's not forget, Madrid's the capital, by far the wealthiest region in Spain, and perhaps the one with the most outsized influence nationally. And the founder of the Podemos party, which is a far left party, quit his post as deputy prime minister to run in this race in order to try to help bring a national component, a national personality into this race to see off that threat as it is from the far right. Now, whether that will work, who knows? Right now, the right parties, that is the party, of Ayuso and Vox and all of them together, and Ciudadanos, which was basically, it dropped out of the coalition, it collapsed. All of them are polling 54%. The right-wing parties, 54%. On the left, all of those parties together, group them together, left and far left, 44%. So you basically right now have the right in a position of strength, and this could rebound on the national level and have consequences ultimately for the government of the socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez.
Doug, thanks for that. France 24's Doug Herbert.